So ever since we've started the podcast, it's obviously ignited a few conversations with people. People have started to talk to me about the fact that we've done a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a couple of conversations this week, and it kind of ignited the inception of an idea in me, an idea that I wrote down, and it's something that I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it out from the phone, and then we can kind of like dive into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes like this. The script tries to isolate us, but ironically, it's the one thing that can unite us. Then, kind of as a side note, I also wrote the power of sharing and doing what the script says you can't. So I think to break down the first part of that, it's when I learned about the script, this negative voice that I had inside my head, it's almost like the script, as I learn about the script and become more conscious of the script, it like levels up its game to try and counteract the fact that I'm getting better at recognizing it.
Mm-hmm.
But from the moment I recognized it, one thing, and to be fair, I was probably experiencing this before I recognized the script, that one thing it's never really stopped kind of trying to make me feel is the fact that it's tried to isolate me. It wants to make me feel alone. But one way it really does that is by essentially saying that the problems I'm experiencing internally, whether they come to fruition, whether they actually exist in the real world or whether they don't, it makes me feel like the problems I'm experiencing are either worse than the other people around me, or they're such a way that other people wouldn't be able to understand.
Like it's worse for you, but no one else.
Yeah, so it's like, spoke about before, big ones around like communication and social situations. The social anxiety the social anxiety, me and Sarah were literally just speaking about the podcast about trying to make sure we're enunciating more.
Now you sound like Sean Connery.
So, yeah. What was I saying? The social anxiety that I experience. I wasn't even drinking this weekend or nothing. I just forget what I'm saying. It's just me.
This is unscripted.
The social anxiety that I experience is either different than everybody else or worse. It can kind of, the script can play either of those cards depending on how it's feeling that day, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I'd already started to have, ever since learning the script, I had a lot of conversations about the script and in my case the social anxiety and even the other things that the script makes me feel bad about, the kind of like pressure points that the script likes to press to try and pull me back to not being the real me. I have realized that sharing and talking about it's so powerful, and that it is actually something else that a lot of people relate to, and it's not something that I've got necessarily worse than anyone else. Like the more people I speak to, especially people who have maybe have similar stories to me, the more I realize we actually have a lot in common with how it's making us feel, and it's making them feel the exact same way. It's making them feel isolated, and it's also making them feel like they've got it in a different way than everybody else, so no one can understand, or they've got it in a worse way than everybody else, so again, nobody can understand. And since doing the podcast, I've engaged in a few more conversations around that topic, and it's just reinforced the fact that that's not true.
Yeah, it makes it really special. I mean, as you were saying in that sentence, if we were able to say what the script was doing and saying it out loud to other people, it may just bring the whole tone of, like, if you're going to a party and you're feeling nervous, there could be maybe 3 or 4 people at that whole party feeling nervous as well. But if you were to vocalize that, I wonder what would happen in that social setting.
Yeah,
it may not work. However, I just feel like in that setting, if people were to say, oh, here, I wasn't fully ready to come out tonight, and they're like, oh yeah, me too, but here, whenever you do go out, you have a great time, right? It was always those nights out that you're at uni, and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered tonight, I don't have the social battery left, and then you go out and have the best night ever.
Yeah.
But everybody's feeling that. Oh, some people are feeling that.
Yeah, I think it's just, like you've touched on there, I think it's just really powerful to either do what the script says you can't do, or say what it says that you can't say. I think, honestly, I can't actually think of a time where I've done what the script says that I can't, or I've vocalized what it says I shouldn't vocalize, and it's turned out to be something that people haven't reacted positively to. Like in this podcast, this whole podcast is literally, in my case, I suppose for you too, but in my case for sure, me doing what the script says I can, and then me vocalizing the things that the script says I shouldn't. And I've honestly really got nothing but had like great conversations as a result of doing it. Like only good things have come as a result of me doing both of those things. So it's helping me create this evidence bank against the script that is worthwhile sharing, and it's worthwhile doing what the script says that I can, because obviously the script wants the opposite. It wants me not to share, it wants to isolate me, it wants me to do what it's saying I should do and stay within my comfort zone. Because I think that's something that I've realized, is that my comfort zone isn't actually my comfort zone, it's the script's comfort zone. And when I'm pushing up against that and stepping outside of that, I don't have to get used to me feeling uncomfortable. I used to think that's what I had. I had to get used to me being uncomfortable in order to like evolve as a person. But I've realized that it's not me that is feeling uncomfortable, because I would never choose to feel uncomfortable about doing the things that I ultimately want to do. Like I would never feel uncomfortable doing those things. So I now know it's the script's comfort zone. So again, it's that 1 degree of separation, but it's been huge for me to realize that I have to get comfortable with this entity called the script. It isn't me. I have to get comfortable with it feeling uncomfortable. I don't have to be comfortable with me feeling uncomfortable, because it's not really me. You know?
I think the podcast as well, for me, has allowed myself to have more confidence with people who I wouldn't have these conversations with. So as you said, like our lovely viewers have provided some feedback saying that they're really loving it and really resonate with it. And it was so special to hear. Like, honestly, it made my day hearing that information. But on the flip side of that, it then allowed a platform to say, I get it. I'm in the same boat as you. We're all feeling this, and we're trying to be that voice for people, having these unscripted conversations and showing others that you're not alone. You're not isolated. We are all in it together. And it then meant I could have that conversation with that person, which I probably wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, I think it opens up a lot of new avenues for new conversations. And I actually think that's one reason I really wanted to start the podcast, because it's kind of like it's an easy segue, because we'd already spoken about it loads. So in order for me to kind of like open up the conversation with more people, because I really do invite people to talk to me about it. Like I understand that it can easily, it can almost, the script can almost easily convince you not to talk to me about it. But one of the main reasons I wanted to start the podcast was because I wanted to have more of those conversations with more people. Like I may have mentioned in the first episode, it's like, it's half part like kind of wanting to help and half part kind of a selfish reason that I know by talking about this, I'm going to start to have more conversations about this. And I believe that can really help other people, but I know how much it's going to help me too. Just engaging and like hearing other people's stories, talking about the script more, unmasking the script in all these different ways that it likes to show up, and just showing up as the real me more often, I know will really, really help me. And I really hope that it can help some other people who resonate as well, you know?
I think it's just practice. Talking about it and keeping the voice vocalized instead of trapped in. I feel like this week, for me personally, was a really scripty week. Like, I didn't enjoy my week this week at all, no matter what I tried to do to choose for it to be a good week or whatever. There was a lot of things going on. And I don't think I actually had that much time with you in the house, just like eating dinner and chatting. And usually that's when we'll like either talk about our days or about the script. Like it felt like a dark week. And it sounds quite deep, but anyway. But within that week, because we weren't talking about it and we weren't always vocalizing it, today is probably the best day I felt. And I think it's because we're doing this right now. And I think it just shows you, no matter what you know, on whatever level that you know about the script, it still gets you.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile probably saying in terms of, and just to stay on trend with what we've been talking about, like, we didn't do a podcast last weekend.
No.
So we were a little bit ahead in terms of episodes, and then we didn't do one last weekend, and you're like, we didn't talk and we didn't share, and we've both been very busy with work this week and stuff, so we just haven't sat and talked very much or shared very much. And I guess it just shows you how important it is to,
it's like a check-in. It's
like a check-in. You know it's that way where people will spend more time recharging their phone than they will recharging themselves.
Yeah, did not do that.
and how you recharge yourself is like is personal, but I know the things that really are helpful for me is there's because we spoke both about the mental and the physical fitness in this podcast. There's things in both those realms that both really help me recharge. One of them is in the mental fitness is definitely us talking, but then right now just saying the word the script, unmasking it, talking about our stories, talking about how our weeks have been, and just kind of not analyzing them per se, but just bring a little bit of awareness about what happened when I was me, when I wasn't me. And that really helps from like the mental fitness side of things. And then of course the mental and physical like are one. It's not, I'm saying them like they're separate, but they're not really. But then going out for walks, getting outside, exercising, that stuff has a profound effect on me physically, which also can really help. Just getting outside can just help me feel a lot better and just help me become more aware and think things through a bit more clearly as well.
Yeah, because just thinking of the timeline of last week, just laying it out on paper, didn't film the podcast at the weekend. We were pretty tired. We were out on the Saturday night, had a bit of a sofa day on the Sunday. I probably didn't get out of the house as much as I probably should have, then had to get ready for Monday work. That week was really, really full on. Didn't manage to get to like my exercise classes on the Monday and the Thursday. Probably yesterday on the Saturday was the first day I actually got outside and was training. It felt great actually. But I do wonder if we had our podcast or even just had a chat or a check-in ourselves on the weekend, would I have been in a better place facing? I would have been myself. I wouldn't have been heavily like bogged down with the script that week, heading into quite a difficult week. To then, I can't believe it's taken me a week to feel like myself again. It's actually crazy. And I do wonder if it's just those couple of elements where we didn't have the check-in about the mental fitness side of things, about the script. I also didn't have much physical fitness going out throughout the week. They are so heavily interlinked. But because I was out training yesterday, I was able to get a good night's sleep last night, all this sort of things. Like, is that why I feel better? And I heavily do think it's because we haven't really spoken that much about the script. Like, I always need to stay plugged in, and I wasn't this week. And I think it's a huge reminder to everybody out there, like, just keep chatting, keep talking about it. And honestly, like, we're loving the feedback that's coming through to us. And if you ever want to talk to us in person about it as well, like, I'm all ears. Like, message us on Instagram, message Chris's Instagram at Coach Chris Mayer. Like, we are here and we love talking about it, and it helps us in a selfish way, as you are saying, but as well it will help a hell of a lot of other people as well.
I think that's also why I started using this term mental fitness, because people know that you can't just do one workout or work out for a year and then you get in better shape, and then you're just, I'm now in this good a shape, I can just stop. Everyone knows that's not the case. And that's the physical fitness side of things. So I think why I've started using this term mental fitness, because I'm like, it's something you have to be engaging in on a regular basis, especially knowing, especially knowing that we have this entity that's there trying to pull us back to feeling alone, not feeling enough, not feeling great. It's really important to continually plug in and recharge and actually be working on your mental fitness. You said it best there. It's like, it's something you actually have to practice. Especially, and this is something I went through, and it's something I go through less, but to an extent, especially when I'm feeling particularly scripty, I still go through a bit. And it feels strange to be the real me. And it definitely felt that way at first. Like, it's that way where I learned about the script and I realized that this person that I got to be some of the time, that I wished I got to be all of the time, was actually the real me. And the rest of the time I was living as this imposter that we're calling the script. And then because I'd been living as this imposter, or I'd been playing this part for so long, it felt more natural is maybe not the right word. It just, I guess it's coming familiar, and it comes back to like, it was within the realm of the script's comfort zone, so it just felt more comfortable in that regard. But then actually practicing being the real me at first felt odd, and it's just something that I've got, it's felt more and more normal, to the point where being the real me is now becoming more of like the default. And then I still get scripty, I still, shit happens, but it's now becoming more of like the not me thing, and then the real me thing is the thing that's becoming more of the default. And it really applies to, like, because it's something I actually spoke to some of my clients about. It was either this week or last week, but it comes back to identity, like really having that identity shift and realizing that the identity you'd been given, which is this script identity, isn't actually your identity at all. And the identity that you would really choose, the person that you really wish you could be, is actually who you are. And we were speaking about it in terms of nutrition, where before it was like, and because they really started to have this really profound identity shift, which is why I love coaching. It's one of the best things I love to see from people, is that before they used to not really eat well. They used to not look after the way they looked, the way they ate, sorry. And that used to be like the default. So they would try and eat better, and then they would inevitably fall back into not looking after the way they're eating again. And it's flipped more to they default to eating, they eat good food, they eat fruits, they eat veggies, they eat protein, they eat the things we all know we should be eating more of. But now they're able to go away for a week, for example, or they're able to go to a party and enjoy some alcohol, enjoy some cake, enjoy some whatever you want, some fast food, and understand now that that's not the default setting. That's just something they can go and enjoy. And the default setting is to fall back into eating these whole foods that we know we should be eating most of the time. Whereas before it was the other way around. They would eat the crap, and there was the alcohol and the fast food and the cakes, and that was the default. And they would try and eat some more fruits and vegetables and protein, but they would keep falling back into their old ways. Whereas now it's kind of flipped. So it's the default is the whole foods.
Did they explain like what the flip was? Like what clicked for them? Or it may not necessarily be a moment in which something clicks, but...
So I think it was... I think it's a couple of things that have probably happened. And, you know, we have to talk to them directly to hear exactly from... I can't speak on their experience internally exactly what happened, but I know it's been an ongoing conversation. So I've obviously been their coach, so they've had me in their corner, and I've been there just supporting them in that regard. And I think that's really important. Again, it's just that having those conversations.
I think it's ongoing conversations, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just those ongoing conversations, but then also realizing that it's kind of two sides of the same coin in terms of helping people realize that they want to feel a certain way, and they really do want to feel a certain way. In order to achieve that feeling, they're going to need to kind of align their identity, and then what follows with that's their behaviors. And you're going to need to eat a certain way if you want to feel more energetic and you want to lose weight. And I think it's just starting to have those ongoing conversations about, you know, this is who you want to be, and this is kind of the behaviors that this person would embody. And it's just reinforcing that for them over and over again. And also the power of, I think, maybe working with someone as well is you don't let a small derailment turn into a big one. So I see them once a week. So at the very least, they're going to get derailed for an entire week before we get to speak to each other again. But there's many times where we can also talk outside of the session. So it may only be a couple of days, but the very most it's going to be a week. But ideally, it's only a day or two. And then immediately we're discussing it. We're like, let's forgive ourselves. Let's move on. Let's not try and counteract what we've done here. It's okay, shit happens, forgive yourself, move on, and just crack on. And it's also a case, though, of like understanding that it's just education around that all these foods can be in part of a healthy diet. Like if you want to have a McDonald's, or you want to have some cake, or you want to drink a little bit of alcohol, like all those things can be part of like a healthful diet. It's always the doses that's the poison.
Yeah.
And it's just helping people kind of like wrap their heads around that as well, that it's like you can eat these things and you can still have high energy, you can still be healthy, you can still lose weight. It's just always a dose is the poison type thing. And it's really individual about how we'll have to approach things in regards to all that. It depends what they're doing before with all those things. But yeah, it's always a dose that's a poison. And obviously we want someone to be eating mostly whole foods and mostly fruits and veggies and protein and stuff. That's how people are going to feel their best, if people generally want to feel their best. But you can eat these other things and it doesn't need to be a problem whatsoever.
Just when you were saying there about shifting your identity and becoming the person that is you and letting just that shine through the whole entire time. But even if you aspire to be somebody and kind of drawing inspiration from someone or something, I don't know, but you're like, I want to be this is the identity I choose to be. The script immediately in my head went, well, you're an imposter. Like literally just as you were talking, I'm just talking freely here. I want to achieve different things and to be able to exercise a bit more consistently and walk more, as well as working my 9-to-5 job, running a house, socializing, trying to be young. I don't know. It's a lot. And I am like constantly trying to have that identity shift. I'm not always succeeding, probably failing more than succeeding. But each time I have that discussion in my own head, the script shouts at me, well, you're just fake, aren't you? You're not trying to be you. You're a complete imposter. then I spiral back around and I go back to what the script wants me to be, and I don't choose to be that identity that I want to be. I'm not saying this to be like, give me a solution here. I'm just saying the thing that the script doesn't want me to say, because I'm probably isolated in the way that I'm, like, I generally feel like no one else feels like this. And you're telling me a story in which a client has shifted that identity, and I'm like, how?
It's exactly what we're speaking about right here. It's literally just practice, showing up, and having regular conversations that either unmask the script or give you a bit more information on a certain topic that helps combat some of the crap the script's been saying to you. But I think probably what's huge is regardless of the outcome of whether you show up as the real you or not, that aside, the fact that you'll be able to identify it as the script is massive. That's like, most people are nowhere near even that step.
Yeah.
Like, they're nowhere even realizing, like, oh, this isn't actually me. The fact that you can even identify in any way that I'm like, oh, this isn't actually what I would choose, so it's probably not me, is a massive step forward. I actually find it crazy,
because I feel like all week I've been going back and forth being like, you need to go out for a walk, or you need to go do this, you need to move your body, this is how you're going to feel good, like, go do it. And I'm like, nah, I'm tired, I'm just going to sit here. I feel very happy with a cup of tea and a biscuit and watching something when I get in from work. But ultimately, the script thinks that's the way I need to rest and recover. But as you said about mentally charging, resetting yourself, whatever rest that you actually need, not that what you want. I feel more rested and recharged right now having this conversation than I have all week. And I think it's really important to say that, yes, of course, have a bath, have a nap, eat good food. Like, I'm not saying that those aren't ways to, like, recharge yourself. Like, of course they are. But I think having these difficult conversations probably, it feels like a bit of an endorphin rush, but at the same time, it feels like the script is, like, running away. And I feel like I'm coming to the forefront a bit more. But all week I've been punishing myself, being like, oh, you're just a fake, you're an imposter, you're not going to be able to do everything that the way that you want to do, to have that identity that you want to have. And within 1 second of you talking, I was like, that was a script, that wasn't me. And I've been punishing myself all week and spiraling out. And if we had a chat during the week, just being like, hey, I think something's going on in my head that isn't me. And at the time, I thought it was 100% me. But now, just as you were talking, I had kind of a big revelation where I was like, that's the script, isn't it?
But even what you said there, I think this is how important language is, because it's that way. As you become more conscious, and by more conscious, I just mean you're showing up as the real you more and more, and you're being able to identify the script better and better. The script's always trying to, it's always trying to come in the back door. And even like in the language you've just used there, where you've like, I've been punishing myself all week.
Yeah.
When you've not been punishing yourself all week.
I haven't.
It's like, it's that way. It's the script is making you feel shit, and then it's like, it's punishing you also for feeling shit. It's like, it's coming at you from both angles, because it does it to me too. And we spoke about it previously in the podcast, but it's that way where, I think that language really matters. It's like, again, it's just another way to get a bit more conscious about, and I still use that all the time. Like, I'll talk about like, I'm self-sabotaging, or like a self-doubt, and it's, or my comfort zone, but I'm always just trying to check myself, be like, shit, like, that's not me. Like, that language matters because it's not me that's doing those things, because I would never choose to do those things to myself. So how could it be me that's choosing?
And I think it's going back to the point that you started the podcast, this episode with, is that we need to say what the script is saying to us to end all of this back and forth, where the script had me going in a downward spiral this week, and it was dark, and it was like, I couldn't see a way out. And I was like, right, this is it. I'm just going to keep spiraling, and I'm not going to choose the identity that I want. But if I'd, even just to myself, or wrote it down, had a journal, a notebook, my phone and my notes, spoken to you, and I had that revelation 3 days ago, I wouldn't have felt as down as I did for the rest of the week. So I think it's just really honing in on what you said at the start. Whatever situation that you're in, big or small, whether a party or meeting a new friend, or you'd be like, oh, I was actually a little bit, or a first date even could be a good, because I even remember on our first date, did I actually vocalize? I'm not too sure, but I was really nervous, like really, really nervous. But imagine you just vocalize that with the person that you were with. It's like, oh, were you feeling nervous today? Or I was a bit nervous.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, oh, the script's nervous, like they might not get it on that level just yet, but it might help you.
Who's this loony bin?
But it just adds a happy element, like a lighter element to a social situation or whatever you're in. Or if you're in the gym and you're like, well, I'm anxious, I don't want to step in here. Like, no one cares what you do when you go in the gym.
I think I thought of two things actually just now. That look, the first thing, just in regards to when you were talking about throughout the week and the tea versus the exercise, we spoke about it in our previous podcast, but I think it's probably worth reiterating that it's trying to find this balance. And again, it's just the script always coming in the back door, because it's something that I still experience about, like, the script basically trying to get you not to exercise, when really it's just you'd probably be better off exercising, and you're going to ultimately feel better for doing so. So then being able to say no to the script in those moments and then go to actually exercise, when the script's going to come at you from the other angle, which is you actually need a night off.
Yeah.
You've had a really stressful day at work, or you've been pushing it really hard in the gym, or whatever's been happening, because it's all going into the same bucket at the end of the day, and you actually probably need a bit of a night off. You could either maybe just go for a walk, or maybe you just sit in the bath with a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And the script, again, I think, because it will do it to me, it will also be like, no, what are you doing?
You need to be doing something.
You need to be doing something. And it's just always going to be like that. It's just what the script is. Mm-hmm. It's going to get you, whether you're damned if you do or you're damned if you don't, in the eyes of the script. But it's trying to understand, like, just be a bit more in touch with. The other thing I wanted to say, it ties into this, is not because again, there's that language thing. The script is really bad at wanting to pull me into analysing everything. And I don't want to put that on other people, because if you're overly analyse things like I do, you just get caught in your head, and it's not a great place to be. I think the word that's so much more impactful is awareness. Just becoming aware. And just becoming more aware of your body and more aware of the script, and just practicing that, like we spoke about, where, to tie it back into what I was saying before, do I actually need a night off, or is the script just making me be like, it's just, lazy Sadie tonight, like I actually am fine and I'll benefit from going to exercise? Or should I maybe do something a bit lighter or easier, or should I take the night off entirely? And the script's not going to like any of those options. It's just not going to like anything that you're doing for yourself to try and make you feel better and to evolve into the person that you really want to be, the person you really deserve to be. The script's never going to like any of that. So whether that's a bath and a cup of tea, whether that's going for a walk, whether that's going to the gym and doing a really hard workout, the script ain't going to like none of it. Like,
it's such a tricky line for so many people. Like, I know a lot of people that are in that boat where they actually can't determine between, is my body actually physically done for the day? Can I go do this training session on top of everything that I've done? Like, imagine, like, I don't know, you have quite an active job, you work in construction, you're on your feet all day, you're absolutely gubbed. Then you go and do like a boot camp on a Thursday night, say. It's then trying to figure out, is it the script that's getting me to be like, am I really lazy, or am I actually just exhausted for the day? Like, especially if you have that analytical, quite complex brain where you're like just going through everything that you're thinking, being like, I need to go do this, I need to make sure I stay on top of this, I can't stop or else I'll just stop completely. It's a very tricky thing to try, because even like having this conversation with you now about me trying to shift my identity to be like, right, I want to start running a couple of times a week. I want to go do my strength classes, eat well, drink all the water, do all the steps. I'm like, right, I need to start right now. And I mean like 100 mile an hour. Let's do this. When I know for a fact, if I go for a run later on, I was at a strength class yesterday, I'm already probably a little bit tired, but I'm like, no, I need to start this so that I don't stop. And the script in my head is like, if you want to shift your identity, then you better shift it and do 100 miles an hour or do nothing at all. But then essentially I'll burn out by Friday, and I'll be like, right, I'm just gonna sit and chill and not do anything, and then I'm back to where I was at the start of the week. That is one of the
script's favorite cards to play, which is like the all or nothing card. And at the end of the day, see if you're like, maybe you don't want to take up running, and you're like, just go for a 5-minute run and then see how you feel. Like, it doesn't need to be that complicated. Like, especially in the fitness realm, things get so overcomplicated. Like, just go for a wee run, see how you feel, and then take it from there. Doesn't need to be an all or nothing thing. And I think it's also just celebrating the fact that you've done these things along the way, like really squeezing the juice out of them and really just celebrating it as you do. So you've gone for a little 5-minute run, you felt good, really celebrate that.
Yeah.
Like, and then,
especially if you're injured, if you're trying to get back into training.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was your case. Like,
yeah, you can't push too hard. Like, there's no point, because then you just set yourself back even further.
I guess there's two sides to that coin as well. In the injury one, where it's like your knee's really badly injured, so it's that way where you probably don't want to do things that are going to continuously injure the knee. But it's also a good time to not stop exercising entirely, because the script will play that card. It's like,
yeah, you self-sabotage.
like, you should still be training the rest of your body. Like, there's no reason not to. And I think that can be the power of like a coach as well. They can help you work around said injuries and keep you on track. But I think you should also be trying to get that knee back to exercising really as quickly as you can without doing anything stupid to sabotage it as well.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, again, striking that balance between, you know, giving it the recovery and the rest that it needs, but also not letting that spiral into, I'm just not going to do nothing.
And I think that's when a coach comes in really handy, or even like a partner, a loved one, a friend, whatever.
Yeah.
And having that conversation to be like, listen, this injury, this little niggle I have is really playing on my mind. And I had a few weeks where the script got me and was like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Like, my knee is so sore. I don't want to go even for a walk. I don't want to feel this pain that's like, and it really brought me down because I wanted to get back to run. Well, actually start my running journey, get stronger. And I was like, oh, F this, I'm done. But I'm like, that's the script. If I just had like opened up a bit more about that, or even spoken to you about it more instead of just spiraling down my own self-sabotaging, and just said, I need to not do this, because then you're just hindering any progress that you are trying to make.
Yeah.
If I just like gone on the bike maybe every other night or something, just kept it moving, it might have sped up the journey a little bit for me.
Yeah, potentially.
But again, I felt so isolated. I didn't vocalize what the script was saying to me, and I felt like I was the only person ever feeling this. And I'm like, there's so many people out there that's in the same position.
And that's the theme of the episode, that sharing is a good idea, and the script is never going to like it.
Absolutely.
I think that's the two running themes for today, is that it's, like you say, whether it's a friend or whether it's a community or whether it's a coach, it doesn't really matter. I think it's just having people in your corner who you can share with and you can open up to, and you can work on recharging the mental fitness side of things, but then also keep on track with the physical fitness side of things as well. You know, it's just important having those people in your corner.
I think even like writing it down, like if you were to journal that, and if I journaled, I actually should just take my own advice. If I had journaled last week and said, oh, I had a really tough day at work today, I don't want to move my body, I don't want to exercise, I'm like, come on, you're literally, the script is in your brain at that moment, you're writing that down, then you could reflect. If I was to read that today, I 100% know that was the script.
It is that. I think we've spoke about that today in this conversation as well. Well, even that's a great idea. Like, maybe it's not in some cases another person, it's just reflecting on what, like, externalizing it nonetheless. So whether you're saying it to someone else, saying it to in a community, saying it to a coach, or writing it down, you're just externalizing it, and then you do realize that more like 90% of the time, the script's arguments are just they are a bit like, it always goes worst case scenario, and they're often just a bit all over the place in some regards. And when you write it down or you externalize it, it just makes it easier to, again, I don't want to analyze it, but just to bring a bit of an awareness to it, where you're like, oh yeah, like, bloody script.
Because it's hard in the moment to realize that you're feeling like that it is the script. You 100% think it's you. But taking a step back, and maybe on a day you've had a good night's sleep and you've eaten a good dinner or whatever, like nutritious meal, and you're feeling a bit more like yourself, and you can read that, that's when you know.
For sure. I think realizing though, like, this is a powerful one for me, based on what you've just said. I did Broadband Consciousness, the course where I learned about the script. And I mentioned before, I came back up to Scotland, and for a whole year, I basically just forgot. Of course I did. Like, the script doesn't want me to remember. And it was, I've totally lost my train of thought again. It's doing so well. What did you just say?
Basically you forgot. You fell asleep for a year.
Yeah, but what did you said before that? Do you remember what you said?
No. Basically, I was that self-awareness whenever you're writing in your journal, your notebook, and in the moment you can't see who you are, and you write it down, and you kind of have that reflection moment, and you realize it's not you. Does that help?
Kinda. Anyway, I fell asleep for an entire year after. I've just start talking, see if I can remember. I fell asleep for a whole year of doing Broadband Consciousness, and when I woke back up, oh God, I can't remember. I'm going to listen back to this, and then it will all come to me, be like, damn it, I had such good things to say. I guess it's not meant to be. Maybe it'll come to me before the podcast is over. But I think the important thing is just to share and to open up to other people, or to just open up to yourself and not get stuck. Like, I'm always getting stuck in analysis. So I'm more just trying to focus on awareness. You know. I think it's just a case of, I can remember
that light bulb moment just happened.
Of course, it's not going to feel like it's going to feel very odd trying not to be the script, because you've probably spent a long time being the script, and that's why it was so easy for me to fall back into that for a year. I don't actually think this is what I was going to say before, but this is where I've taken things, so it'll come
Here
to
we
me.
are.
Here we are. It'll come to me. It's just not meant to be.
Do you have-
Maybe when I watch this back and I remember, I'll make a post on it or something. It'll be like
Moment
podcast
came to you.
4.1.
Yeah. Do you have a pearl of the week?
I think my pearl of the week is... I hadn't actually thought of one for this week. So off the top of my head, I think it's just probably this conversation. Oh, I actually did think a really good pearl of the week. It just came to me. This conversation is definitely a pearl of the week for sure. But a big one was just I was at touch rugby and I was feeling rather scripty when I went, and I got out of the car and I was walking over, and I just took a moment and I just stopped where I was walking. A friend was watching me. They probably thought I was crazy, but I just stopped for a wee sec, and it was dark, so I don't think anyone could see me. not that really cute if they did, to be honest. But I just stopped and it kind of like took a second and reconnected with the fact that it's okay to feel this way. I've just remembered what I was going to say about me falling asleep for a year. Oh yeah, here we go.
I was in that moment for pearl of the week.
This continues the pearl of the week. Basically, I fell asleep for a year after doing broadband consciousness, and it's important to remember that this was huge for me. Like, imagine if you're the sun. Let's have a little analogy here.
I am.
You are. You are my sunshine. So you're the sun, and if the clouds move in front of the sun, or if the sun goes, the earth twists, and then you can no longer see the sun, it doesn't mean the sun is no longer the sun. The sun keeps being the sun, regardless of if it's in vision or not. Clouds are in the way, there's a storm going, the earth is twisted and the sun's around the other side of the world now. The sun is still the sun regardless of all that. And even if someone falls asleep, or they get scripty, or they forget, it doesn't mean they're not still them. It's just that this other entity's taking the driver's seat, and that's okay. It happened to me for a year after I learned about this. So if you have you resonate with something we've said here, and you have a little bit of a spark where you kind of like come to the surface and then you fall back asleep again, that happened to me for a year.
Yeah.
And then it still happens to me sometimes. But it's a case of like, oh, I just fell asleep. It's okay. I don't let the script then make it this whole other thing where it like beats me up.
Yeah.
I just fell asleep. It's all good. I'm awake again. Let's crack on. So to kind of continue my touch rugby story, I just reminded myself that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to not be feeling great. And ironically, or not so ironically, just that was enough to then I honestly had the best session ever. It was like, it just turned into the best day ever. And again, that was at like 4:30. So the day became the best day ever at like 4:30. It didn't have to be something that happened in the morning. And it was literally just a case of me remembering that even when I'm feeling very scripted, even when I'm asleep, that's okay too. I'm still me. I've just not had a great day. I'm just not feeling great, or I've just fallen asleep for whatever reason. And just to remind myself that was okay was enough to then go and have a great session. And we did. And just like, I just had a lot of fun with everybody. Like it just, I was just really able to then show up as me. And that always makes things 10 times better when I'm just,
That actually makes me think back to Friday, because whenever I got home before you on Friday, and I was done in. I was tired. The week hadn't been great, as I have said multiple times. You must all think I moan a lot.
No.
Anyway, so whenever I was on the sofa and you came in, you were really energized, and you usually are after touch rugby because you've been running around, you've had a great time. But something else had happened. Maybe it's just because you've told me this story where I'm like, now it makes sense. But hindsight's a gift, I guess. But you seemed really energized.
Yeah.
And I was like, go away. And I think I was very scripty on Friday. And I was sitting here and I was literally like, what are you doing? Like you never give me the ick. It's nothing like that. But you came in, you were like buzzing. And obviously my script, or the script in my head, was then looking at you and be like, whoa, he's been himself. And then I was also then concerned to be like, you'll figure out something's not quite right with me and you're going to ask me what's wrong. And I didn't want to talk about it. I wanted Friday to be over and I wanted to go to bed.
Yeah.
But you were buzzing, you were dancing around, you were fully you. And now I'm like, I feel really bad that the script had just got a hold of me in that moment. I couldn't have I didn't enjoy that moment with you. I looked at you maybe on a slight regard of being jealous. I don't know. But you were full of life and you seemed so light. That's the only way I can describe it. You came in and it was amazing. But now I couldn't celebrate that with you in that moment because I felt scripty.
Yeah.
But again, if I had vocalized it and you feeling that you were so switched on that night in regards to broadband consciousness, you were so awake, if I'd spoken to you, it probably would have been really powerful in that moment to bring me back. But I didn't.
I think that's a really nice thing about knowing this is that what maybe at the time was the script's like, oh, you messed up there. You can actually look back on it and it can be a really powerful moment. It doesn't, the script's like, oh, I made you feel bad. And then now after the fact, I'm going to make you feel bad for feeling bad. But really, what you've just said there is a really like conscious and aware thing to say. And I think that's a really powerful, positive thing to take forward from that experience. Regardless of how I was, regardless of how you were, who's scripted, who's not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like you've taken a really powerful lesson forward from it, from what otherwise was like you're saying, it was like a really not a great day and a really scripted moment. You saw, I guess the silver lining in it, the positive moment from it. And I think that's worthwhile you remembering and like internalizing that, because again, if you let the script run riot with that kind of stuff, it's just gonna
never ending.
It's just gonna turn. It's going to distort it into some mad crap. It's going to not make you feel great. So,
but you can sense it, even if you can't identify what the script is right now. Like if you're obviously you might be very new to this, that's absolutely okay. But without knowing what the script is, even if you want to call it a negative voice in your head, whatever it is, I could sense this bright light coming out of you on Friday night. And I was like, oh no. And you may just associate that with being a good mood or whatever. But I can feel people's energies. It sounds like whoopee-doo, I don't know, but I feel like you can really sense it off of people if they're not feeling 100%. And it's sometimes quite a big thing to go up to somebody and be like, oh, hey, like, are you feeling all right today? Like, are you okay? And they may be turned off by that. I'm like, no, don't talk to me. Like, I'm fine. All good. And it's that Scottish script you're sort of bringing up in previous episodes. But I could see it as clear as day when you came in that the script was gone that night. And you obviously had a self-reflection moment where you were like, woohoo! But you can see it in people. And again, at parties, if you had a really good night or something, I sometimes think that's because it's the real people that are there. They're celebrating, they're having a good time because the script is nowhere to be seen. But yeah, that's just my take on Friday. But
no, I love it. I think that's I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode, though. I think
my pearl of the week.
Oh, I thought that was your pearl of the week. I apologise.
No, that's okay. No, I didn't say. Did I say my pearl of the week? No.
I thought your pearl of the week was how you reinterpreted that. What
well, it could
Friday
be.
Night. No, I apologise. Sorry. What's your pearl of the week? Wait, before Sarah goes, I want to actually just say we recorded this podcast and we literally, because this is what really happened. I went to look at the phone because we just finished and it was a blank screen and we panicked.
I thought he was winding me up.
Oh my God, this whole thing hasn't filmed. But luckily, it has all filmed, bar the last like 2 or 3 minutes. So we're literally just going to do Sarah's Pearl of the Week because that's the bit that cut off. Just last
keeping it truly unscripted.
Yeah, truly. So yeah, this is our second time doing this. And yeah, go. What's your Pearl of the Week? Okay,
so my Pearl of the Week, I would say, is this conversation. And literally just as you were behind the camera checking if the content had been recorded, I think this was a really good conversation for us. Within our relationship, within the week that I've had, within the couple of days, like you weren't feeling great either. Like we should have had this days ago. Yeah. And maybe it's because we are filming the podcast, we aren't having those check-ins as regular as we are. But I honestly can't get across, I'm not going to cry.
So good.
How important it is just to keep talking.
Yeah.
And I know we're literally just saying, you feel so isolated within your day-to-day, whatever you're doing. But if you tell somebody, it honestly removes everything, all the power that the script holds over you. It completely diminishes. And I cannot get that over to you enough because I literally feel so light right now. We should have had this conversation a few days ago.
It's okay that we didn't.
Yeah, it is. But I'm really grateful that we have. And we've actually been able to capture it and share it for everybody else because honestly, it will help you and help whoever is close to you, whatever you're going through. Talk about it. Say the things that the script is holding you back on because it's not you and you want to show up as you. And yeah, I'm going to stop before I start crying. But that's ultimately, this has been my Pearl of the Week. So thank you for having a lovely chat with me.
I think I said this before we ran out of we had like an hour of footage, and I was sure that like, oh, we're not going to go over an hour, but lo and behold, I think we faffed about for the first 15 minutes just chatting away about some other stuff. But my main takeaway for people is to just become aware.
Yeah.
Become aware of the fact that when you're alone in a room, you're not the only one in the room.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't need to be more complicated than that. I can't make it more complicated than that. And you're going to forget sometimes, you're going to mess up, you're going to fall asleep. It doesn't mean you're not really you anymore, and it's all good. And it's just about practicing. And that's why we wanted to do this podcast. Excuse me.
Do you have your mic on?
No. Where is my mic?
I don't know.
Oh, I'll put that away. We're back. Sorry if you don't hear me as well. I've just realised I took my bloody mic off when I was like fixing the podcast before. Anyway,
God.
script's trying to sabotage us. Yeah, just become aware and just practice that. That's all I've ever done, and it's all you really ever need to do. And that's why we want to have this podcast, to give people another opportunity to recharge, another checkpoint, just to remind you and remind us of who we really are and who we're really not. So that's all I have to say for today.
Me too. I'm good. I honestly, it was such a great episode today. Like, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. And
I had a lot of fun.
We didn't need my mic. This
He's loud enough.
Well, that's true. This last bit was about you and your peril. So if you haven't heard me, then fine. At least we got your peril. That was the important bit. So that's all I have to say for today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for joining us this week once again.
But yeah, bye again.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye.
See ya.